yeah.
Hey.
What are you drinking? Do you have a drink with you?
I do. I made an old fashioned, which is it's become my like quarantine drink for some reason. I think it's just because it's easy and tasty.
Your
Hell
mic
yeah.
is still doing the monster thing, by the way, which is crazy.
So that was happening during nationals. That was terrifying just now. I thought I was tripping for a second.
Wait, this is exciting because I've been told that my mic does this on Zooms every so often, but I've never heard it. So I'm excited we're recording this so I can finally hear it for the first time because I've just been told I sound like a monster sometimes.
What are you guys drinking, Malik and Tay?
I mean, just
a
wine,
rosé.
just a little rosé situation, simple, easy. Bought it from the food bazaar.
Yep.
Like we're just
simple.
We're
$6.99.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, $6.99.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a bowl with marijuana in it.
Thank God. You know what? We're working on a little situation.
Song right there, bro. I don't want you hanging.
I'm so glad to hear that, Malik, because of all the people in nationals, I hardly got to talk to you. And I was very upset about it because from the moment you came on my Zoom screen, I saw Tay, she, hers, and Malik as the caption. And I wasn't going to be that guy. I already speak so much, you know, I'm a talker. And
I didn't catch that till like 30 minutes into the call. And I was like, oh, shit.
We changed it for something. I don't even remember what it was. And now I can't figure out how to change it back. So if anyone's technically savvy, does anyone know how to like, we know how to change it once we're in Zoom, but we don't know how to change it like outside of the Zoom call. Help.
I have no idea. I've had to do sort of like an adult with a baby thing where like somebody was like, I don't know how to change this. Can you change me? And I've changed their diaper for them and added their pronouns, and like it's just the thing I've learned to do as a
Bro.
Beautiful.
really came into my own as a parent over Zoom. Our first guest is Tay Bass. She's a dear friend of mine, and she's in a production on the Tank's online streaming service, Cybertank, which you can stream until the 27th. A wonderful play called Meet You at the Galaxy Diner by Gina Femia. Very excited to watch it tomorrow. It's gonna be lit. How was doing it? How was the experience?
It was crazy, to be honest. Like to be acting in front of a green screen. Well, yeah, in front of a green screen, and then like have nobody there to really bounce off of. Because when we were speaking, like there was a way you could change. We did it on Skype. We didn't even do it on Zoom. And yeah. So then when they said that, I was like, what on earth? We got the acting. I was like, what? So that was a whole other thing because like Skype has a lot of weird features, and like honestly I think Zoom was a little better, but like for what we were doing, Skype was so necessary, and I realize that now. And like on it you had to change you could be looking at our stage manager instead of like looking at your scene partner if you like set it up wrong. So to kind of, it was like this whole other guys, like I usually you're just kind of acting and you're working and focusing on your craft, but this was like a whole other monster because you had to worry about like, what is my computer gonna do? Like we're relying so heavily on technology when like it's so fickle that like it was a whole other anxiety. That was
we were saying that the other day when I had Gina and Will and Cornelia Jones, who was a cohort speaker and alumni. They were all saying, I've had to learn to become a Zoom technician. I didn't know that like finding my angle and getting my mic in check was like more important. It feels so cosmetic because even for me, I have the insecurity of even doing this right now and being like, am I just like a trashy hoe trying to get attention? But no, I'm just trying to talk to people. That's what it comes down to. And like, I feel like when you sort of get it down to like the most basic need that we all want, it's just like to talk and to communicate, right? So I guess that kind of makes me less of a hoe. Our second guest is Malik, who's sitting right next to Tay. And he was an actor in the 24-hour play Nationals cohort with me. And I've heard your name, honestly, like I had started hearing your name like about a year ago. You're just one of those names that you just sort of hear in the ether. And I knew, because Marcus Jones, who's a good friend of Tay and I had just seen that picture and of all the people at Williamstown. So I saw you were there. And then I went to school with this woman, Claudia Logan, who was in Exception to the Rule with you. And we're going to get to all of that. And now our third and last guest, but not least, Ryan Dobrin, who directed Malik in Dinner with the Parkers by Kiana English. And
Yay.
that was part of the live performance of the 24-hour Plays Nationals. How was that experience of like directing a live stream?
Woo!
So stressful, like Tay, like you were saying, or like you're relying so much on just technology, and you're relying on, you know, actors have to be their own costume designers and stage managers and props designers, and we have to just like, you know, make sure you're in your own space, so you have to make sure that everything on their end is working. And it's such in some ways it was like so difficult to sort of like let go of control. I'm such a control freak, and to be like, okay, they're on their own. Like, I've done everything I can do. I hope it all works. I hope like the Wi-Fi holds up. I mean, our first day that we were doing 24-hour plays was the day that the storm passed through the East Coast, and both me and the actors I was working with lost power. And it's like we all sort of have to accept the circumstances.
Who was your actor?
Benny Salerno.
Oh, Benny!
Yeah,
Oh.
the sweetie.
I fucking
And
love
so
that
he
guy.
was like, he was charging his phone in his car and then like dashing into the house, like quickly rehearse or record, and then going back. And then I was trying to like make it work without power, and my Wi-Fi was coming in and out. So it's hard, but it was exciting and just nice to sort of get those muscles flexed right now, because I feel like that's the thing I have been most scared about, is just time passing and losing the, you know.
And it's crazy how we're flexing them differently now, right? Like, we have to be so much more forgiving to ourselves in a really unfair way that I feel like the American way isn't used to. And especially, I mean, the Europeans, they're not even worried about this. My sister, she's been stuck in America. She's supposed to be doing her postdoctorate at the University of Cambridge right now, because she's like a genius. And she's on the other side of this wall, but soon she will be on the other side of the fucking pond. And that upsets me just a lot. I'm not dealing with my feelings until probably far too late. She's going to be on the other side of the pond, and she's going to have all this fucking theater to look at where they're doing open air theater. They're like, Zoom, I don't know her. They're just like going for it because they have the funds, and it's all sort of funded within their like system. And theater as an institution in America is not. That's one of the things we talked about in college. Like, there is no national theater in America. That just doesn't exist. I guess the question I wanted to ask you guys is, individually, how did you all find your way into doing theater?
Like the whole start?
Like the beginning of it
The
all?
whole, yo, I'm talking exposition to the max.
Whoa. Okay, so it's crazy because like my whole life, like I played basketball. That was like the only thing that I did. Like that was, that's what I was aspiring to be. Like that's the only thing that was on my mind. And then like I got into martial arts, and then that was a thing. And then I did that, and then I did that and basketball. It was easy to balance it. And then it was like after a basketball practice in the 9th grade, I like saw a poster that like said like auditions for The Color Purple. And I was like, oh, that's my auntie favorite movie. Let me go audition. So I got on like this Michigan State hoodie, and I'm going inside the audition. And like, it's terrible. Like I do a monologue from like The Barbershop, the movie. And I sung like a gospel song that I sung in church. Like I didn't know what to do. And so then I didn't get it. And then I like talked to the teacher about like a week after, and like she came up to me after another basketball practice, and she was like, I think I made a mistake. I want you to be in the show. And I was like, oh snap. Okay. Like, yeah. So, okay, cool. So then like that.
You asked her to talk to your agent?
Her name, right. I had to talk to my agent. Like, but her name is Marilyn McCormick. She's great. She's fantastic. And so then I started to notice how like I would start to miss basketball practices for like rehearsal. And then I was like, oh, like this is new. And then it wasn't until the next year, my 10th grade year, when we did Ruin by Lynn Nottage.
Ruin in high school.
We did Ruin in the 10th grade. In the 10th grade.
Fuck yes.
And so that was when I was just like, yeah, this is this is different. Like this is and like I felt the importance that like during that time when we were doing Ruin, like that shit.
Were you Christian? Did you play Christian in it?
I was one of the soldiers.
Oh, word.
And I made like an appearance as Officer Kasimbe. And so
Simba.
so that was dope. Like it was like this is a short story. It was the night before a show. She like texted me and was like, I need you to learn all the lines and blocking for Kasimbe because you're gonna go on tomorrow. And I was like, huh? What? Okay. And like after that, I knew that like this was something that I like had to do. Like and I was just like, this is so yeah. So then I was like, okay, it's a possibility of going to college, and then college, joke. Then college. Then I'm in New York. Boom.
And what about you, Tay?
I was put into theater a lot when I was little. Like I moved around all over the place. And I was lucky enough to go to schools that had like theater programs in them. And so like my mom stuck me in them because I wasn't very sporty. I wasn't like, I didn't really do anything, but like she was like, well, you know, she likes to act. She, you know, she puts on performances in the house. Let's just put her in theater. So I was running around in theater, but it actually wasn't until 5th grade. I had a kind of similar situation where I was in 5th grade. I was the understudy for Mayor Shin in the Music Man. Like nobody told me that I was. And so the person Mayor Shin got sick. And so I was in the bathroom, like, and I was just one of the little conductor people in the beginning, like I wasn't anybody. So I was in the bathroom eating chips in the bathroom, which like was just not a good look, in costume. And my like director at the time came up to me, busted into the bathroom, and was like, all right, you're on. You need to go get mic'd up. You need to go put on your stuff for Mayor Shin. And I was like mouthful of chips. I'm like, what? So I go on stage and I'm like shaking. I'm reading off of the book. It's like Music Man, MT, what is my big moment? And I'm like shaking at the little pedestal. And the girl who was playing my wife, which was very telling at the time, actually, she like put her hand on my hand and was like, trust yourself. So I was a 5th grade girl, like true. And I was like, yeah. And then I like went home, I learned all my lines, I like had a little character body, and I was like so into it. And it turns out that the girl got better, so the guy got better, so he got to go on for me. But I was ready, like I was in it. And then ever since then I just like loved it and found so much community in it. And I've been
I picture a scenario where you refuse to leave, kind of like how that British lady did in The Office when Andy came back, and she's just like, no.
Me now, but me at the time was not.
I can't believe you both had like surprise understudy experience.
Yeah. Like, why they trying to play me? I could have been prepared if somebody would have told me.
Yes, I like that. I've literally I have not acted in a while now. I still have nightmares in which I like have to go on for a role that I was unprepared for. I cannot believe that you both experienced that in real life. I'm definitely going to speak about it.
How did you get into it, Ryan?
I was trying to think about what the most direct path was. I'm pretty sure it's that when I was 5, I was such a klutz, and my parents enrolled me in ballet class just so I can stop like tripping down the stairs. And I like wasn't quite into ballet, but somehow I think being on a stage clicked with me, and I just acted for most of the rest of my life. I went to a school with a really wonderful theater program and a really great summer arts program. So I like went there a lot, and I worked there for a while. And I like knew that I really loved theater, but I like didn't quite know how to exist within it other than acting for a while. And it wasn't until like the second half of my college experience that I directed my first thing, and I was like, oh, okay, this is where I was supposed to be. And not on the stage, and I'm enjoying like creative decisions and telling people what to do, and artistic choices. And I was like, okay, this checks out.
So I'm gonna brag about Ryan a little bit then, because at Wesleyan University he double majored in theater and Italian studies, and he won an award, the Rachel Henderson Theater Prize and the Outreach and Community Service Prize in Theater. Those are 2 different awards, I believe. And he's the first ever student to receive both awards bestowed by the Department of Theater. Like, that is some way to like bring it home for all of us.
Yes. What?
Yeah,
I can't believe you just like pulled up my website, but I think I've actually I edited that because I was like, this is too much, and I need to calm down.
Y'all are on your website games. Also, I gotta say, Tay, Ryan, Malik. Do you have a website?
Oh, not
Me
yet.
neither. It's okay.
I'm working on it. Yeah. We'll
Yo,
see.
honestly, same. There's just so many different things, and I get so insecure once, like, I thinking about the website, it's easy. It's like, oh, I'll throw all my things on there and pictures, but then it's like the about me section. That's what's
Like, yikes.
Yeah. Like, how do you define, and that's an important thing to do. You know, I bet, like, if I actually put some effort into it, I probably can just fucking do it. But did y'all make your own websites?
Yes. We might be similar in the control freak situation.
Yeah.
I just like to have all my things in one place, and like I don't know, I'm a Virgo, and so like I really let stop.
Yep.
Yay.
That's why.
3 days.
Yeah.
3 days. Her birthday in 3 days.
So,
Oh my
yeah.
god.
Yeah, so it's like I thrive off of lists and like logical, like this is where this goes. The bio was a bit difficult, I'm not gonna lie. It changed a lot, and like the times I've been out of school as an artist, it's definitely changed a lot from like this is me, look at me, to like this is what I stand for, like more of like a personal situation. And I'm not sure what's better. I guess it just depends on like the artist you are trying to rock with.
Yeah, I mean, it's the line that you choose to cross with how you identify yourself, right? Because there are a lot of people who, like, more power to them, use their voice as an activist to, like, sort of like merge that with their acting career. And there's like a lot of like positive things about that when you don't have a lot established, but also it's a sort of a tricky line, right? Because you don't want to make your entire acting career about activism, but you also like want to be able to, you know, be keenly aware of the world around you and know when to speak up when, like, you know, Ryan and I are from Long Island. We know the worst of the world, and you know, I was bred in it personally. Like the town where I come from is very two-dimensional, ignorant, all white people, and it's just something that I had been wanting to like be part of a different community than I was stuck in for a very long time. But you know, financially and like where you are in high school, where you're bred, you know what I mean? Like
Definitely.
it's just, you have to be able to stand up when you need to, you know? What were your Long Island experiences, Ryan?
I mean, a lot of what you said, I think, really resonated with me. I mean, I think I feel like very grateful in a lot of ways because I got to exist in a couple bubbles on Long Island, which I think helped me see the world in a little bit of a wider lens. In that I went to Quaker school for most of my life, and then I was also raised an ethical humanist, which is like a whole other thing. But like both ideologies were very much about like respect and dignity and community, and so I got to sort of exist in these like tiny little bubbles of just people promoting being a good person, and then but also like growing up on Long Island, which I mean, as you mentioned, Keith, is just like is like built on racism and racist practices and is incredibly segregated. And I mean, like, I was one of, I want to say like 8 or 9 kids of color in my class of like 85, and we all were on the same school bus, so we all were from the same part of the island. And so it's so easy to ignore if you want to, and then so hard to ignore once you really see it.
Especially because you're bred in like suburbia, right? So there's no other option besides like going to an after school activity or going home on the bus. And if you don't have like, I just was very unaware for a while of like what theater could mean for me until it was I mean, for me, it felt far too late because it was like, there's all these BFA musical theater schools I want to go to, and that felt like the only way out, which I find hilarious thinking about. You ended up going, funny enough, Tay, to like a BFA school on Long Island, but it was like good, right? Or talk about it.
Well, all right. I mean, I know I personally had a lucky experience throughout my, like, I know that the program itself is not built for success. You kind of have to, like, there's a lot of favoritism in there. There's a lot of colorism in there. There's a lot of things that are bounced back and forth. But I think that, like, my class didn't take no for an answer. Like, we were like, no, we're gonna learn about these actors, and we're gonna learn about, like, Black theater, like, playwrights, and we're gonna do them in this class, and we're gonna learn about this, and we're gonna talk about this. And so, like, I was really grateful for the class that we were the highest number of, like, POC that my school had. So it's like, I got a lot of, like, really lucky for my cohort, but not so, like, every other class I was just like, what are y'all doing? Like, are y'all, like, why are you acting this way? Like, I don't know. I was raised by hippies. Like, both my parents, like, my mom and my stepdad are hippies. So, like, it was always love. It was always like, let's go hug a tree if you're feeling sad, like, that kind of shit. So, like, I just couldn't, like, I went to school actually with a lot of, like, Long Island musical theater women, which I think is a really particular.
Like who? Let's just name names, because I feel like Ryan and I must. Come on. Let's fucking go.
Maybe after the Zoom is done. But, no, so they're, like, a very particular group of people. And so, like, it really, like, learning about that and seeing the way that they operated within the whole, like, musical theater itself, I think is really toxic. So I think that being on Long Island's kind of heightened that in a really strange way. Just because, like, there was a lot of, like, I don't know, catty. So
Yeah.
Like, once I realized outside of school and a little bit within that, like, theater could exist in a way of community rather than, like, competition, it blew, like, I was much happier doing theater.
I'm about to say something, like, not too terrible. Long Island community theater smothered my ego like a pillow. And I grew up around, like, a bunch of these very, like, kind of entitled, egregiously cliquey, and unforgiving people.
Yeah.
It just who would not even give you the time of day to, like, look at you as, like, a person sometimes. And I saw that firsthand happen to other people. I saw that happen, like, I mean, there's theaters that I haven't even been to where, like, the one that I went to actually looked really positive in June. Like, with Black Lives Matter, they said everything right. They whatever that fucking means.
Right.
Like, but there was a whole other theater, the Broad Hollow Theater, which as of now finally doesn't exist. Did any of you guys hear about this, Ryan?
I don't think I heard about
Oh
this.
my God. So this theater basically was like, we stand with Black Lives Matter, but we also don't want to paint all people with the same paintbrush. Police are people, you know, not all of the tapes have come out yet. And I haven't felt more a part of, like, a community of, like, the entire world when we fucking jumped on these hyenas. Like, finally, I was like, let's fucking go. This has been, like, years and years of just, like, upholding white supremacy. And I won't say that I don't uphold white supremacy myself. Everybody from Long Island upholds white supremacy. I could probably say that at the very least, you know, to not even acknowledge it. And then the comments section was the best, because it was like, they were like, we were hacked. That was their and then we jumped after them even more. And, like, Joe Iconis and I and, like, a bunch of other people went in there and we're like, it was so cathartic. What changed for you in June in terms of, like, how the world was finally responding to police brutality?
That was a very, very interesting time. Like, just, like, because, like, based on where we were staying at the time, like, we were in Soho, like, house sitting for this rich ass family. They were paying great, so it was like, fuck it, we gonna help y'all move out. But, like, the first night we were there, that's when shit got real. Like, that whole block was on fire, like,
completely on fire.
And, like, the whole time, like, we're just staring down from, like, the top floor of this apartment. Like, we feel so, like, it felt so weird. It felt weird to, like, be in that setting and be looking
and to be
at
protected,
and be like, and to feel protected, and to be like, I should be I should be down there. Like that's like
And
that's
so we
like
were. We were like, yeah.
So it was like, fuck it, let's go. And like being from Detroit, like I never really had to do that as far as like fight for like being black, because everybody I saw was black. Like it's 97-98% black people there in that city. Like it's the blackest. So like it was no, like we didn't have to have that like at all. So it wasn't until like college where I was like, oh snap, like this is a thing that I gotta like learn how to talk about and like advocate for. Like I can't just be it anymore. Like I gotta like do something different. And so that's what this time felt like. It felt like a way to just like, all right, it's time to learn. It's time to learn how to like speak up, use my platform, no matter how many followers I got, but like use my platform to talk about this thing, to uplift what should be normal. Like, so it's like, it's weird because I'm still learning, and I like, we all got ways to grow, like, especially in the black community, like to like, especially as like black cis men, to like step up for like black trans women and black trans men. Like that's our duty. And so it's like, I'm not gonna pose and be like, okay, it's like these white people that gotta do all the work. No, there's so much work that I gotta do and that I gotta make my community do at the same time.
Well,
So
it's
like
funny that you talk about that intersection of the LGBTQ community, specifically the Black trans community, because for so long, and even like Pose, for example, that's like the most, I would say, elevated mainstream story that gives Black trans women a platform to share any form of their truth. And some of that is still like run by Ryan Murphy, who's still a white person.
Hello.
And that does mean that technically you could say that like Ryan Murphy upholds white supremacy, but he gives agency to people like Janet Mock to, you know, tell that story and be a showrunner and tell a story that she has ownership over. But at the same time, the queer community in June was like really held, they were called to action too, because, you know, so much of June is pride every year. Pride as we know it, pride's a celebration, and it's like, what does that even really mean anymore?
Exactly. Yeah.
Just an awakening time.
I wanted to also ask you guys about how you've navigated institutions, right? Tay and I have navigated our institution. I'm wondering what your response was when all of that stuff started happening, Tay.
It was not surprising by any means. It felt like I posted a meme that you and I actually like giggled about, where it was like the meme of that little girl was like making like a smiling face and the burning building is behind her. I made a little thing on my Insta where I was like me and like all the racist institutions I'd ever worked for in the background.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So it's like, that's honestly how June felt for me. Like I was like, finally, like because what was really frustrating is, I mean, we can just call a spade. Like, truly, we told Naya, Joe, we told Carol, we told all these people, like, all the fucked up things that were going on as they happened. Like, we told the people at the Flea, like, what's going on. We said, hey, we don't like Southern Promises. Hey, you realize the Color Brave season doesn't really show us in brave situations. It actually just shows trauma. And, like, do you realize this? Like, these are all things you said. And, like, also, this is me speaking as a person who, like, benefited from the Color Brave season, which was one of the most traumatic seasons. Like, I got work after that show, and, like, I can acknowledge that, but I can also acknowledge that I was paid $75 for blood, sweat, and tears in so many different ways, and, like, nobody checked in with me. Like, we were working on some pretty, like, our show was technically, like, the happiest of that season, you know, and we were still working through trauma, and, like, it was still really hard to deal with, and nobody, like, there was nothing. Actually, our friend Kim Matt said it really beautifully on a talk with Williamstown, where it's like, don't bring me there if you're not going to protect me. Like, don't tell these stories if you're not going to take care of the people that the stories are, like, being told. It was a long time coming, and I just really hope that moving forward, like, yes, they're going to be paid, but, like, you can payment is a protection, yes, but, like, it's not the only way to protect your artists and protect your people, and that goes across the board. It's not just the actors, it's the writers, it's the, you know, like Alicia was treated horribly. Like, how are you gonna say that you're the most diverse company in, you know, New York City and not pay your actors? Like, don't you realize the systemic hold that you're enforcing and perpetuating by doing that? Like, it's so strange, because watching Carol speak, like she's such an eloquent speaker. And I remember one of my first bat hours was volunteering at the gala. And like, I was speaking at the gala, and like afterwards she like
That's
praised
right.
me. And later she called me the name of another actor, another like, like we had an interaction, and then later she called me Jess and continued to be Jess all the way up until like Hype Man happened, and I could make her money. So then she remembered my name. Like it's you know what I mean? It's like like take care of your art. Like you can't just be so flippant as a person. Like I understand that persona of like the boss, right? But it's need to break down those hierarchical systems within theater communities, because it's creating it's perpetuating the problem. Like
it is
in power being mean to all of these people of color. Like how is that? Like you really thought that was going to be successful for so long?
Yeah, it's ironic that they pride themselves on, you know, giving voice to like the BIPOC community, and while it's run by like you know, the artistic director is a Black gay man, and you know, I had a lot in the sort of subcommittee meetings. A lot of thoughts that were going through my head is like, what agency do I have as a white person to like even hold conversation about whether this man should like continue his job. It wasn't like I'm not saying I was part of a decision of any sort, but like even to contemplate that is a power that I hold.
Yes.
Like that's still upholding white supremacy. And it's just so like it after a while you have to realize that you are a voice, but you're not necessarily the be all end all voice. The people who are, which is how this can get solved in my opinion, is the board of directors. The board of directors approved a Color Brave season that exploited Black trauma without giving any agency, freedom, or joy or protection to any of its actors.
Yep.
And it was something that had been warned, and they approved that. And you need, what that shows is obviously there was a shit ton of white people on that board. It was like mostly, and now what they're vowing to do, I hope they go through with it, is make half of their board BIPOC. And you know, that is gonna at least make sure that when white people see a Color Brave season, they're not the ones who decide, well, that's what we're doing because I would be racist if I said no to you about it. Ryan, you've navigated a ton of them. You worked at like MTC, Playwrights, Horizons, and I'm curious what your experiences were when at those more commercial institutions.
I interacted with a lot of these institutions while I was simultaneously working with the Movement Theater Company, which is, you know, a theater organization that has been unilaterally run by people of color for people of color. And so I always was able to have their, I was their like intern for a while, and then I was like their assistant, and now I'm their associate. And so I always have been able to have their sort of values in the back of my head in all these institutions that I've been interacting with, and knowing that there is a way to be making theater that values the safety of everyone involved, including the actors, and is creating art that is like for the community and being and is like uplifting community members. I feel like that has been really helpful in the while I navigate like these larger institutions, as in these like fellowships and internships, or just working on shows, is like always having that in the back of my head and knowing that that is a leadership model that I am trying to emulate. It's hard because like these bigger institutions I am like so loosely involved in, because you know when you're a fellow you're like there for a season and you're not really like on the staff, and so it's I don't know, it's hard to like know exactly how loud to make my voice in these larger institutions that, you know, I am benefiting from getting to put their name on my resume. And you know, and then like I get these experiences that they've like decided to grant me.
Right. Well, I'm curious, like what part of your, like you were at Playwrights, what year?
Well, I was technically there this past season / am kind of still there.
Oh, okay. So this
Depending on
is
what you call this time.
right. That you were there during the you were there after A Strange Loop, for example.
Yeah, I was the
Right.
season after Strange Loop.
And what you were a directing fellow there, so a lot of your job was sort of, because I've actually had interactions with some fellows while I've seen shows there, because like one happened to sit right next to me during Mankind, where I actually, where is it? There's a production Robert O'Hara did of Mankind at Playwrights Horizons, and Andre DeShields at the time was in it, and he played like this sort of like doctor or pastor figure, and was like,
Right.
we are all going to sing now about how like men can like produce babies, and everybody in the audience got like music to read and like a baby to hold, and I stole that baby and I put it in my jacket, and I still
That
have
was
it.
the perfect introduction to that.
Oh yeah, I was like,
Oh
that
my
was
God.
like one of the first. That was my first time seeing a show in that space. So it was like, welcome to Playwrights Horizons. Thank you for the swag. I feel like Playwrights Horizons more than any other theater has sort of been like my conscience for like where theater has gone, just for me, because the first thing, funny enough, I saw there was something Nigel directed called Here by Taylor Mack. And that's why like I know Nigel is a talented director. But what I do know is that there's a difference between being an incredible director and being an incredible leader. Those are two different skills, and leadership should always be merged, I feel like. But I'm wondering if like any of you have been in leadership positions and can speak on like how you've learned to sort of be a person that is inclusive of different voices and all that.
I have a lot of conversations with director friends about how there was an attitude for a while as a director that's like, I'm in charge, you all are here to like enact the things in my brain and make them real.
The authoritarian.
Yeah, and that also like really used to be celebrated for a long time, the idea of like someone, often older white men, just like coming in and like barking things, and you just have to do it because the director says so. So I don't know if this is like a personal example, but I just like have really been thinking a lot about the ways in which I am happily seeing that start to shift, and you know, the necessity of like intimacy directors in rehearsal, or sensitivity directors in rehearsal, and the role of like a dramaturg in like mediating what's happening on the script. It just like there are so many more. And also just the rise of like collaborative directing, how it doesn't have to just be like I come in and I have something in my head and you're the puppet who will make it happen. Instead, like I'm going to be the creative leader of what we're making together, and I will be sort of like leading us through it, but we are creating it collaboratively because we all chose to go into a collaborative art form. So enjoy the fact we're making it together.
Exactly.
And so it's been really heartening to more and more see that style of leadership be the trend, and the what I like to think of as like the kind of bullying directing start to make someone less hireable, although it's certainly still out there. And that's something
It's
that
absolutely still out there. I've been an intern for multiple different people on multiple different levels, and the way like they hold power over you, I feel like there's an unspoken lesson in an internship that like this is how you can treat people if you want.
it's like this attitude that because you're like the greenest person in the room, that people can treat you however they want. I mean, I done a few internships, but I had one at Ars Nova after I graduated college, and I was treated with like such respect and dignity, and my like opinions were valued, and I was like, oh, like even though I am like the lowest ranking person in the room, you can still treat those people with respect. And you know, I had opinions that they then like valued, and I did work that actually was important to the running of the institution, and it was just so exciting to. I mean, I don't know. I'm excited whenever I see like actual change, and you know, being a part of this conversation too, and knowing that we're sort of the folks who are like rising into the industry right now, and that this is sort of the norm that we're all expecting, as opposed to a magical utopia, has me excited, because then, you know, the next generation of artistic directors and actors and leaders in the room are going to be people who have this expectation, as opposed to make theater no matter how much you suffer while doing it.
I know right now is a very sensitive time for like, you know, Hamilton vernacular and holding conversations about the creators of those. But something that really resonated with me about like something I heard Tommy Kail talk about was like, I don't know where people get this idea that like people should scream at each other in the room, or like we should be able to like disagree and like, you know, fight through the disagreement and learn something. And it's like I feel like you should be on the same wavelength before you walk into the room so that you can protect your ensemble and like you could engage in that collaboration without having to, you know, make it an ego thing. But so often in the industry of ego, it's so easy to let that shit slip by. Malik, I'm curious about Exception to the Rule, because that was like a pretty dope fucking thing, and
Yes.
I really need to see that show like on like I want to watch it on Apple Plus like right now. That's like, I would be doing ideally right now. So talk about how you got that, how you got involved, and the people and all that.
Yeah, I mean, like that was crazy. Like it was like within like the first like 2 months of me coming to New York, like from Williamstown. Like I got like this email from my agent saying like, hey, we were told that they want you to be a part of this reading at the Roundabout for this new play by Dave Harris. And I'm like, oh, dope. I had just heard about that playwright too, like in Williamstown. Like he was there at one point. It was crazy. And so then I went to the reading, and it's crazy because like most of the reading, it was like a 4-day reading, and like we like just read the play, worked on the play. But I was in such like an unsure place in my life. Like I felt like so like I like on the outskirts when I was there. Like I was like, yo, I don't belong in this room with these folks. Like no, like there's no reason why I should. I don't know. It was just like a lot of doubt. And so I was just like, all right, I'm gonna just keep pushing on. So then did that, and it felt great. And then like 2 days after that, I got like a call from like the artistic director saying, we want to offer you the role of Tommy. And I was like, yo, what?
You got a call from Todd Hames?
From no. It was a letter, and then they called me. And then I got hit up by Miranda, who was like the director.
Miranda Heyman, yo. Okay, so I've come across a path of Miranda Heyman's oddly, just sort of randomly. I produced a play festival for New Alternatives, which like gives resources to like homeless youth and shit. And we just produced all these queer plays, and I got a reference about her directing another reading I was producing. And we talked, and she was like, I can't do this right now, but I would really love to. And I just didn't know who she was. And then I started reading articles that she's written on like HowlRounds, seeing that she actually directed this. I only saw that like an hour ago when I looked up, like, what, wasn't Malik in that fucking play with Claudia too? So it's just, she's a leader of all these amazing Roundabout director apprentices. And I wanted to have her on anyway, like a month ago to do like a round table. So Ryan can especially speak to this. There's like a great article she spoke to about how liberal arts schools, we were specifically in liberal arts programs versus like conservatory programs. Mm-hmm. I was at Purchase and for their BA in theater, which was basically like a directing major, but like had acting classes. Basically, one of the things she wrote about is how liberal arts programs failed her as a director and a queer person of color, because they kept having her want to direct these original plays by people of color, but they did not make enough agency to get enough participants involved, and it was up to her to like reach out to different clubs, like sports teams, to be like, do you want to be in a play? And it's like, what the fuck? Like, you can't, like, why should she have to rely on fucking Troy Bolton? That's like some of the oldest like 2006 bullshit I've ever heard. Like, there are stories that should be told, and it's because so many liberal arts programs are run by white people, and one of the solutions she talks about is like expanding the canon to not just be like directing Chekhov. It can be directing Wilson. It could be like a Lloyd Richards intensive. It could be like a Kenny Leon intensive, because that man's body of work already, it speaks for itself. I don't like everything he does, but like you can't argue with Much Ado About Nothing. That shit is like right in your face. So I guess the last question, as we sort of start to wrap up, I can ask you about is how do you see theater changing right now?
I think this time is going to make theater like more specific, like in that sense of like down to the story. Like I think that's going to be more like focused on, I would hope would be more focused on as far as like storytelling. And then like as far as like acting, like we were just talking about this earlier, but like I feel like all actors are kind of like learning how to act on camera at the moment. Like if you've been pushing it off or like waiting to have lessons and boom, 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 that don't matter now. You're being thrown into the fire of learning how to do that, like on camera. So then like self tapes get better. They start to get better, and then like once you get back on stage, your acting becomes just a tad bit more specific. And like, yeah, I just think everything is like starting to like become more specific, I would hope. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm hoping for more. I'm taking it as a hope question. I'm hoping for more Black joy. I'm hoping for less Black trauma. I'm hoping for, this is a change that I really want to see in musical theater, because I feel like it's the slowest to catch up to the curve, if that makes any sense. Like we're still seeing My Fair Lady, not to knock it, but it's like, come on, like so much has changed in our world. Like why, let's see, like Strange Loop, come on, like more of things like that, you know what I'm saying? And I also, something I'm really interested in is having like breaking the Ian Field Stewart talks about this a lot.
Yeah.
But like breaking the, not even just the binary, but like fucking with people. Like baritones don't always have to be these big burly men or like these tall smooth men. Like baritones can be a lady, okay? There are ladies who are tenors and baritones, and it's like we can break the mold in that. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be like, we are so complex as people that I would really love for musical theater especially to match the complexities of us as people. If they want to be as inclusive as we're saying, like let's really do it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. There's like, what I'm getting this up right now. I just saw something a couple of hours ago. Somebody just made a Facebook status, and they were just like, when theater educators automatically cast the fat students as the old ladies or the broad comic relief, those students are subliminally being told that they're not believable as objects of love and desire, and they will often go on to carry that belief with them throughout their careers and lives. And that is so accurate, because up until 9 months ago, I like was on a trajectory to weigh like 300 pounds, and I made a different choice and like lost like a shit ton of weight since then. And that was my, so what are you gonna say?
Great. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt, but
no, it's all good.
It looked good both ways, baby. You're killing it in all ways.
Thanks, yo. And now I'm like sort of in this weird in between where I'm like, my body, I'm under 200 pounds, but my body doesn't look like somebody who like was told, like in 2003, I don't look like Dawson's Creek under 200 pounds. I look like a Strange Loop under 200 pounds, which is like what the world actually looks like. And like, I just sort of have to be able to accept that and reteach myself everything I was taught about the type of people I was supposed to be. And that starts with, I mean, it sounds crazy selfish, but it starts with stepping up for myself and giving myself that agency. Like, I feel very conflicted, like if I'm producing something, like should I be in it? Like, and it feels like, do I have permission? And it's like, I feel nobody's gonna say stand up for you, so you might as well just like stand up for yourself.
So well said.
Yeah, it's scary though, because that shit makes you sound so fucking selfish. But like, that's what I've been taught, but it's true.
Yep.
That's what you've been taught is true. It does not make you selfish.
Ryan, what are your hopes for theater throughout this?
Yeah, I mean, I love what both of you said, Malik and Tay. Something I've been thinking about a lot is how hard it's been for theater to be making those changes that you're talking about, because there is such an immediacy to like producing live work that I often feel like it often was like, okay, we'll think about this later, but right now we just like have to, the show needs to happen right now. Or like, okay, but now the show's done, but we're planning the next one, so we'll think about it later. And something I'm really hoping is that because there's such an intense pause right now, like we literally cannot be producing, and there are like all these articles like that great one that Miranda wrote, and all, you know, all these are just like making us actually start to think and question the ways in which we are creating work, and just like the kind of rooms that we're making and the kind of stories that are being chosen to be produced. And I mean, like where stories are being produced. I read a really great article, I'm forgetting where, about how for so long BIPOC playwrights and directors would get put in like the second stage, like it's like the small theater, so they like the theaters get to like check that off their box. But then this whole thing I didn't realize, which is that like because it's in a smaller theater, they can't comp as many award show nominators, and so the shows don't win any awards, but they still get to say they produced them. So I'm hoping that like the fact that all of these things are being said now and theaters can't actually be producing right now means that they are spending a ton of time actually doing the work that they've been procrastinating for the past decade. All the things that you were saying can happen because there's actually like the time to do some deep thinking and reorganization and reshuffling of leaders and priorities, so that we exit this time with the theater industry finally caught up to where they should have been a long time ago.
I imagine.
And I'm so freaking excited for Malik to be an exception to the rule. I actually saw that thing. You're so freaking good. I'm so excited. Miranda's wonderful. And I'm so hyped to finally get to see a full production of that.
When can we, I mean, you know, right? Like, you know, really, okay.
We have,
but it's still on the list, right?
It's still on the queue. It's still on the queue.
Fuck yeah. It's on the queue.
Like,
damn,
so like they're like keep emailing us to like see like, okay, who's gonna start dropping out in the cast, like but I'm here. I'm not going nowhere. I don't got nowhere. So but, so we'll they're shooting for April, but like who knows? I don't
fucking man, yo. I'm very excited to see it, and I'm excited to see you in it. I'm so glad I finally gotten to talk to you, Malik, and like actually make conversation. I think the closest conversation Ryan and I had was like during a quick lunch break that nobody was in. It was very brief, where I was in there and I was like, oh, I'm ready to eat lunch. I'm like, where are all the other actors? And only the directors are there, and this is the day we're all gonna go live in like 7 hours. Yeah. And they were like, I think they're all like working on their lines, and I was like, well, I should go too. I'll see you later. And like basically looks like a garbage lid in over Zoom. But honestly, I'm so glad I got to talk to you more, and you know, we're gonna hang out when we get the Long Island 24-hour people together. We're gonna figure out that like park and or beach. Fuck the beach though, honestly. Fuck the beach.
I love a park. Hang.
Yeah. And Tay, it was just kind of fucking incredible to see your face, and I feel like I could talk to you guys more all fucking day. Truthfully, my only friends from Long Island are meeting up tonight, and I biked there before and biked back here to do this. There's a joint rolled for me when I get there. Oh, yes. So I'm gonna inhale that.
You gotta go.
Enjoy it, my love.
Go get that.
I fucking will. Thank you guys so much for doing this. It's so good talking to all of you. Oh, and Meet You at the Galaxy until the 27th on Cyber Tank. It's only $10 so what are you doing? If you're listening to this, you might as well just fucking watch it. So, all right.
As well.